Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulihil kareem, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man istanna bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Today we will do the ayah from 21 to 24. These are not very long ayahs, so inshallah ta'ala probably will be finishing quickly today. So as we know that from the ayah 8 till ayah 20, Allah talked about different characteristics of the munafiqun. Also, in the last few ayahs, the last 4 ayahs, Allah gives 2 examples, 2 parables that we say that compare the situation the munafiqun in. So after these parables, Allah says in ayah number 2 that Allah is addressing the whole humanity. Allah is saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, ubudu rabbakum, alladhi khalaqakum, wa walladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. So basically, based on the parable that Allah gives, so Allah is commanding the people to worship Him and by being His slave. So the scholars say why Allah is telling Ya ayyuhan nas, because so far Allah is talking about the people of the believers, like alladhina illa alladhina amanu, or Allah talked about the kafir or munafiqun. But by saying nas, like people, Allah include everybody. So Allah is telling everyone that come back to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why you have to come back there? Because you have to be a muttaqin. So the main purpose of going back to the first thing that we said, hudal lil muttaqin. So this Quran is the guidance for the muttaqin. And after giving all this description of the munafiqun and everything, Allah is saying again, look, if you want to protect yourself, if you want to be muttaqin, so worship me and be a slave of me. Now the word ubudu is it's a little bit of a grammatical thing, but I'm just very simply I'll try to understand. See, ubudu means it's a command form. Like in Arabic, there is something called command. Like if you say sit down, stand, come inside, these are all command. So ubudu is the form like a command form. But every verb has a normal form, like a present or future form. And this ubudu comes from 2 words, 2 past tense, abada or abuda. Abada and abuda is the 2 form, and from both form it comes ubudu. And actually basically means the abada means to worship, and abuda means to be a slave. And the slave versus worship, we already spoke about this when we discussed Surah Al-Fatiha, but very quickly, you can be a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but doesn't mean you're a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a lot of people who pray, who fast, even who give zakah, but in their daily life, when they're out of the masjid, they're doing the things they love. Maybe their business is not halal. The work they're doing is not halal. The way they're talking to their wife, family, the elders, not the way he should do it. But he's still praying. So he may be a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, he's coming to masjid. Yes, he's giving the zakah and everything. But he's not following the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is a slave then? A slave is who worship Allah on time, and also when the prayer is finished, he thinks, okay, now I'm going out, I have to be doing things the halal way. Is this Islamic? Is this not Islamic? This is and that and all these things. So basically 24 hours, even if when you're sleeping, you're doing ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the difference between a slave and a worshipper. This is not the same thing as we think. And also the purpose is to be the muttaqin, to protect ourselves. This is the whole purpose, to do worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not Allah forcing us to do His ibadah. Allah is telling us, if you want to be one of them muttaqin, then you do these things. And that is the purpose here. In the next ayah, Allah is saying now, see, it's very interesting here because few ayahs before, Allah gives some examples, as I said, right? And one of the example was what? That the munafiqun are in the desert and Allah has taken their light away. Also the rainstorm coming from the sky. But now Allah is telling, if you are a muttaqin, these things, the same things, can be a protection for you. What are the things? I have made this world like a firash. You can walk on this, so no problem. Also, I made the sky like a roof for you. So when you have a flooring, nice flooring, and a nice ceiling, what does it mean? That you are protected from outside, right? This is the main purpose of making a home. And that's what Allah is saying here. That, look, I have made these things for you. Not only that, the rain that was a destructive rain before, now it's a protective rain. Or it's giving the vegetation and everything. So Allah is using the same thing, but Allah is saying, look, if you are muttaqin, these are the blessings that I have given you. These are the blessings. These things can turn into a blessing. And then Allah is saying, but you have to make sure that don't make any competitor with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't make your ego, your greed, your jealousy, at the same time you cannot have two things at the same time. You are either a muttaqin and leave all these things, leave all these negative things, and be a muttaqin, and knowingly you have to do this. Meaning Allah is saying here that you already know these things. I have given the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have given you the book, so it is under your knowledge. So you can't say no, I didn't know that. So that's why Allah is saying that while you know it. So this is the ayah that says about here. Now the next two ayah is very famous ayah. As you know, the ayah number 23. It says Allah is giving an open challenge. This is one of the three challenges in the Quran about the Quran. And in this challenge, Allah is saying if you think that what I have given to my slave, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is not from me, then bring a surah like this. So Allah is saying if you think that what I am saying, what my Rasul is saying to you, is not from me, bring a surah like this. And Allah said, the Arabic language says misliha, misli, anything similar to it, not exactly same. Even if brings anything similar to it, and if you cannot do it, then Allah is saying, call your witness if you are truthful. So Allah is saying, do whatever you want to do, bring a surah like this. One thing you have to understand here that Allah said, Abdana, our slave. So Allah is referring to Rasulullah but saying our slave. And a few places in the Quran, Allah give this title to Rasulullah that my slave or our slave. Even in the Surah Al-Kahf, the first ayah, Allah said that that Alhamdulillahi allazi anzala ala abdihi al-kitaba. So Allah is saying, I have given the book to my slave. Slave is the highest honor of a human being, you can say. It's highest honor. Allah is saying he is my slave. Meaning, to be a slave, as I said before, you need a lot of qualities. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he's the best person who ever walked in the world. He's the best slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is an honor given to him in this ayah. And Allah is, by saying that my slave, Allah is giving more honor to it. He doesn't say he's a slave, he's like a true slave or the complete slave. No. He said he's not only that, he's my slave. So Allah is attaching himself with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, giving him the honor. And also another point that a lot of scholars mentioned, that this ayah comes in the Madani Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, right? But before that already 13 years gone. See, a lot of times, sometimes when you give dawah to people like non-Muslim, first thing we say, look, this is Quran, this is the challenge, can you do like this, can you do this? This is not the way, that's not the Rasulullah did, that's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. Even in the Madani Quran, after so many long time, Allah saying these things, depending on the context and everything. Meaning what? Only going to the non-Muslim and giving the challenge of this and that and the Quran and this and giving the scientific, that is right, but this is not the first thing to do. First thing, you tell them the basics of Islam, tell them the way that they should understand, bring them to Islam, then slowly you give them these things, these miracles. Because miracles are not the main thing. The miracles is one of the part of the Quran, but there are other things that we should preach before. And then the last ayah for today, that's the same related to the challenge. Allah said that, if you cannot meet this challenge, and Allah is saying that you cannot make it. So Allah is doing two things here. It's very important. Allah is saying that, you haven't done anything surah like this. And I know you cannot do this too. So Allah, the Quran, in Quran, Allah is giving a prediction. This is a miraculous ayah that, Allah already telling that you will never ever will be doing so, making a surah like this. If you cannot, then fattakun nar, meaning protect yourself from the hellfire. And Allah is saying, even if you take up this challenge, I know you'll be failure, but if you take up a challenge, if you decide, okay, today I'm gonna sit down, next 1 year I'll make a surah like this, and I'll beat the challenge of Allah. If you take up the challenge even, you will be failed, but at the same time you will be following to the hellfire. And that's what Allah means, fattakun nar. And then Allah says, this hellfire will be the fuel of the men and stone. Now why stone and men? Because men, we understand that people, all humanity who don't follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be in the hellfire. Stones, basically there's 2-3 things scholars mention. One of the things, if you burn a stone, it becomes lava. Like in the volcano and everything. And lava is one of the highest temperature thing that you can imagine. That's one thing. Second thing is that in the same surah we'll know in future, like in few hours later, Allah said that there are people, their heart is like stone. The heart became stone. So this is also mentioned here, because those kind of people there whose people's heart became stone, obviously they are not going to Jannah, so they will be burning here too. So there are two benefits of mentioning stone here, that it could indicate that thing and that thing. So this is what for today, inshallah ta'ala, for ayah. Inshallah that tomorrow we will go from here. Jazakallahu khair. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.